Zevahim Daf Rimal Amud Aleph, 15 lines down. We mentioned previously that Rava had a lot of contradictions that he answered. Rava was mentioning it. Um, Ravina was mentioning it rather. Now he's mentioning another one that he had. So what was the problem? Turam and Mutta Ahridi Rava had another contradiction. Mi Amar Udamar Rav, we don't really say the name of Rav. Hatat Shisha Hatat Hashem Olah Slaughtered. Korban Hatat slaughtered for the sake of a Korban Olah is Pasul. Shehatat Hashem Hulin Kishira, but you slaughtered for a regular Korban without being Kadosh. Rather not kadosh at all, just for hekes, slaughtering it, it's kasher. Alma dmina mahariba must be that we see something that is in the same type, in the same category of kiddusha, for example. It makes it um, aso. Dilab mina lo mahariba. In case where the intention is for something that is not in the same category, for example, slaughtering it for no kiddusha, it's kasher. Where it says imruni v'minu yistira. Kol haget shenetav shlulam sheb misa pasul. If it gets not written at all for to being divorced, it's pasul. Va'afilu shema b'chavim namit pasul. Even if it's written for a goya, non-Jew woman, it's pasul. So we see that even in a case where it's written for a get, but for a lady, if it's not Jewish, it's still pasul. The one says no, it's different. Shani answers the as follows: Get in the case of get, if you just subtract the concept that it's mentioned for a goya, have the stama because you can't write for a goya, so therefore it's considered like an unspecified intention. Usma pasul by a get without intention is pasul. Kodashim by kochim by animals. If there's no holding intention there, have the stama it's considered not specific. Ushtamak sharim and therefore non-specific is kasher. The word says, "V'nai mitahidi another stira." Mi amar Rabbi Damarav. Hata shehata l'shem olah pizula. The korban hata that's slaughtered for korban olah is pasul. Shehata l'shem holin kishra slaughtered for the holin is kasher. Alma d'mina mahri but l'mina lam mahri. Again, we see that if it's for the own type of concept, it's kasher. If not same type of category, it's pasul. Opposite. If its own category is pasul, not same category is kasher. Matan says the pasuk says in regarding to a utensil that is shedded, so the pasul creature fell inside. Usually the carcass fell inside. So if it's inside the airspace, it makes everything tameh inside. Lo toch tocha, but not if it's inside another interior of another utensil. So there's one utensil with the shedded inside the utensil of another, and that utensil inside another one. The the food does not become tameh if the sheretz is in the outside utensil and the food is inside the inner utensil. Va'afilu kli shetaf mesil, even a non-earthenware utensil also stops it from becoming tameh. So we see, even though they're different, the earthenware and the non-earthenware are different. The non-earthenware utensil still can create a blockage to save the food from becoming tameh. So we see, even non-similar things are considered different, and it blocks it. A question against what we just said that non-different things like a korban will not block it from becoming kasher. The Gemara said, Vishani, we answer, Asu hulin is kochim. Hulin regarding to kochim, kimhaisa is like a divider regarding an oven. Mama hisa is tanur lo mahanim lekla. Just like regarding to an oven, um, there's no such thing as dividing the oven in half to stop tuma, like we'll see soon. Hulin is kochim lo mahanim lekla. So to hulin regarding to kochim, also there's no difference. But in general, utensils are just considered utensils. And therefore, even the different type of materials, they've considered blockages. The Gemara says, the Talmud Shana said, "Tanur shehatzub b'nesarimo b'minerals." If you try to divide an oven, let's say with wooden boards or something, but nimsa sheret b'nekumen had, and the sheret was found on one side of the oven. Hakot meh, everything is in the oven, even on the other side of the oven. Kaved shepet yuchtav. You have a hive, like a basket that's used as a hive, and it's battered up. It's not really able to be used. And then you plugged it with straw. So Michelle Dabdir Hatanor, you hang it into the airspace of the oven. So it's not inside per se. It is just hanging there. Sheretz b'tachan, the sheretz is inside this basket. Hatanur tameh, the oven's tameh. Sheretz b'tamur, the sheretz is in the oven. Ochalin shebetachan tameh, the food inside the basket is tameh. Rabbi Eliezer mitaher, Rabbi Eliezer is mitahor. So what do we see from here? Rabbi Eliezer kavachomer, but proof from a kavachomer. Im hitzil b'miteh hamur, if this divider saves food from becoming tameh in the case of a human tameh, which is more stringent. Lo tatzil b'kli cheres kakao. So for sure, just a divider should help regarding to tumah by a lenient tum'ah of sheretz in a utensil of the earthenware. The Gemara says, "Amru Hamzed." That's not a good explanation because why? Im hitzil bimet hamor. If it says it by if it stops the tum'ah in the case of a human corpse, which is stringent, shekin halkin ba'olim because it is normal for people to make tents for humans and to make two different tents, for example, partitions. That's but that shouldn't say work for food. People don't divide earthenware utensils in half. That's why partitions don't work. So we see from here, regardless, that the main point of this Mishnah shows that dividers, which is not considered utensil, and therefore is not considered like a piece of the oven, for example, it does not create a divider inside the oven. And Rava still holds, for example, that Hulin, which is different than Kochim, a non-Kadosh animal is different than a Korban animal. Um, uh, Also doesn't interfere. That's why it's kasher. Proof that different things don't cause problems. Gemara says, what does he hold? We hold that the partition does create a difference, even though it's different. Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer kava homer kama, Rabbi Eliezer had a kava homer. Meaning, Rabbi Eliezer says that technically, yes, a korban that's a hulin that's not kadosh can be fine regarding to kadosh. However, he says the case of the earthenware is different because if it blocks the tuma of a human, if a shore can block the tuma of a earthenware vessel, which is interesting because he said the opposite before. But it must be we changed our mindset and how we're looking at it. Okay, yeah, here's the case. Okay, you have a kava chomer from human corpse to regular shredded tum'ah. So do the same thing. Use the kava chomer if kochim can block kochim, then holin. So kochim could for sure block holin. Kadosh animals can for sure block holin animals, and it should be pasul. Gemara says, "El tamad Elazar k'v'zagan Elazar v'hol tamat min Rav v'lo yahadu kosher b'nei Yisrael l'tashay yamnu Hashem." Things that are kadosh should not become tameh, hulin rather, and they will be separated. Koshim halin koshim. Therefore, we see that kodesh can block other kodesh. And hulin and hulin does not block kedusha, and that's why if you store it for hulin, it's okay. Alma ataka kava chomer. 1 second. We had a kava chomer, and the pasuk uprooted the kava chomer. Achanami, so how come regarding the oven, litany toho lafkimi kava chomer, the word toho should knock out the kava chomer that Rabbi Eliezer had, right? We just said that Rabbi Eliezer had a kava chomer regarding the partitions from a human corpse to sheretz, tumah. So if that's the case, you have the pasuk of teaching you toho, then the Torah obviously does not care that it's considered a partition regarding to tumah. So you should knock out the kava chomer of Rabbi Ezer. Same way that the Kal Vachomer, not that the Kal Vachomer from the Torah, the Pasuk, not that the Kal Vachomer regarding the animals, Korbanot. The Gemara says, "Hi tocho mi ba'alei." No, the word tocho over here is needed for something else. That's why you can't use that to block the Kal Vachomer. Le'achlin shegi belan betit. It's referring to foods. It's teaching you hiddush that foods that were coated with like clay or something. That what? The you put it into an oven. What's the hiddush? Sat Amina, you would have thought that this clay coated food, say that 5 times fast, would be considered, and you put it into an oven that has tuma inside. So you would have thought that what? Ho'il ubini ya'al, since it can't be come tameh by touching through tum'ah because it's coated with clay. The avironam, therefore also the airspace of the oven, the tum'ah also can't hit it. It's like blocked. You have a partition practically, the clay that's covering the food. Mashman, therefore the pasuk says inside the oven teach you that even the airspace, even if the food is coated, it's tameh. Remember says how would you learn this concept? Remember says they don't need the pasuk to teach you that. Yosef, I mean, Rami, else a contradiction. Shinui Kodesh Shinui Ba'alim, he has a contradiction between changes of Kiddusha, like regarding like using one animal for a different korban, and also for also the concept of the changing in an owner, meaning if the korban instead of the Kohen saying I'm slaughtering this animal for Reuven, I'm slaughtering it, he says I'm slaughtering it for Shimon. But Mushani he answered it. What's the question? Me and Marav, does Rav really hold hatat that if a korban hatat slaughtered for a different type of hatat's kasher, the shem alap is allowed, but he slaughtered from the kolat's pasul. Alma, we see lab mina mahariba. We see that if it's a different category, it blocks it. The mina lobo hariba, if it's the same category, it works. Hatat for hatat works. Rab holds hatat shehashal mi shemichiyav hatat b'slav. Rab holds that if someone a korban hatat is slaughtered for someone else who had needed a hatat, it's possible. Amish Allah kasher, but if you need it for Allah, it's kasher. Amad bar mina hibad bilaba mina hariba. We see that if it's the same concept, it blocks it, but if it's not the same concept, it does not block it. Remember, it says the Mishnah answers that as well. Hatam vesha hatat hala hatat and hatat. Pasuk specifically said over there that you should slaughter it for korban hatat. But hatat Hashem hatat hatat. Therefore, since it's hatat to hatat, it's fine. The hacha v'chiper alapti, but regarding to a change of ownership, the pasuk specifically says that the kohen shall give him kapara. Teaches you alav lo achavera, only that guy can get the kapara, but not somebody else. Only the owner. Havera u'nadida, and therefore it teaches you that this person must be similar to him. Shem you have kapara, he also needs the same kapara as him, and therefore you cannot transfer it over. Rav Haviva Rami, Rav Haviva also had a contradiction. Shinui ba'alim atoch toho. He has the contradiction from the concept of changing of the owners, and Reuven's korban being slaughtered for Shimon, and also the concept of the interior of the vessel, double interior of the vessel. That what? Umishani, and then he answered it. Umi Amarav, did Rav really hold hatat shahata mishim mechuyev hatat b'slaughtered? The korban hatat is slaughtered for someone else who needed a hatat. It's pasul. V'amishim mechuyev ulah kasher, but a hatat is slaughtered for a person who needs an ulah is kasher. Amma, we see Dminama Hariba, the same category is Pasul, but something that's not the same category as Kasher. But Hanabert says Toho, whenever the Pasuk says the interior of the vessel should become Tameh, below Toch, but not what's inside the inner vessel, right? So the inner vessel of the inner vessel. Afilu Kli Shutef, you must see even in the second utensil will save something inside. So if you have the second utensil inside that first utensil, second one has the food and the outer utensil has to share it. It saves it, even though it's not the same type of vessel. We see it saves. So how is that possible? Do non sim the different categories can team up? The Gemara says Mishani answer over there is because the specific learning in the pasuk teaches that. It's not because of the the item that's different, therefore it works. It's because of the mood of the pasuk. How do we know? Arba'at tochok TV, there are four types of words toho, interior, written in the pasuk. Toch, toho, toch, toho. Mentions toch twice, toho twice. Chad legufet. So you have four limudim. The first one you can't learn because it needs to teach you the concept that earthenware, uh, inside the interior of the earthenware, the airspace can make food tameh if it's tuma inside. Okay. The second word teaches you that it becomes tameh even without touching. Third one, had the it teaches only concept of the earthenware of the airspace can become tameh only applies to earthenware. Not a different type of utensil. And the fourth one teaches you that only food that's inside the interior becomes tameh, but not food that's inside, the double utensil. Even if it's non-earthenware. So we see from here that the pasuk is one that teaches you that even other type of things make it tahor, even though it's not earthenware, even though it's a different item. But otherwise, it would if it's on other concepts, different things can't save. Okay, we'll stop here.